Hi, second grade. Today what we're going to be doing is we are going to be getting our binder. We're going to be getting our nature studies worksheet. So if you don't have that, put pause and make sure that you grab it. It looks something like this. Okay? It should say lesson 2 at the top. And today what we're going to be talking about, let me share my screen. Today what we're going to be talking about is our scientists. And I think anyone can be a scientist. You just need to know how to ask the right questions. So I want us to put on our scientist hats on, putting them on, thinking like a scientist. So that way we can find out what exactly is a scientist. Okay, let's go. So what is a scientist? A scientist is a person who studies the world around us. They ask questions and find ways to answer them. So a scientist studies the world that's around us. A scientist, I'm gonna grab my camera. We're gonna go over here. A scientist investigates the world around them. A scientist can come out to the garden and look at a leaf and think, I wonder how this leaf grew, how it came about. See, scientists investigate. Investigate means that they ask questions to find out answers. So a scientist investigates the world that's around them. It looks at this tree and thinks, why does this tree grow like this? How does it grow like this? Why are the leaves green? So, to be a scientist, it's not very hard. All you have to do is investigate the world around you. And how do we investigate? We investigate by asking questions. We investigate by trying to answer those questions. So, like I said, I think anyone can be a scientist. And I think we are going to enter into a journey where we're going to become scientists by asking questions. Okay? So let's continue. Scientists research and gather evidence. They look at something and they think, how does this pen work? How does it work? Well, they research, they look for information, and then they gather evidence. They do experiments to see how it works. They learn new things about our physical world by observing, testing, and experimenting. They observe, how long is it? Does this pen move when I'm not moving it? Can it move by itself? That's observing. Testing it. Is this pen sturdy? And experimenting. Well, let's try to do an experiment and see. If I push this pen like this, what happens? If I push the pen like this, what happens? So a scientist finds something in the world. They study it, meaning they look at it, they test it, and they ask a question, and they answer that question. Do you think you can do that? I think so. Okay, what does a scientist do? Let's see. Well, scientists help us understand our world around us. they help us understand how it works. Scientists collaborate, meaning they work together. And many scientists work together to find out the answers to problems and to come up with an explanation to why something happens. So, how many kinds of scientists are there? Are there just one? Is there just one? No, there's actually many kinds of scientists. There are, it depends on what you're focusing on. If you want to focus on the earth and the rocks and fossils and maybe dinosaurs, well, maybe you're going to be an archaeologist. An archaeologist are people who study the past, things that happened before. Well, let's say you want to focus on learning more about the earth and you want to see what kind of soil is in the earth and how far you can go into the core, the inner core. Well, then you might be an earth scientist, right? So there are many types of scientists in 3 branches. You have earth science, you have life science, and then you have physical science. So depending on what you want to focus on will depend on what kind of scientist you want to be. So like I said, if you want to focus on the earth, there are scientists for that. If you want to focus on life, how the body works, and maybe how animals are formed and how babies are formed, well, then there's life science. And then physical science. Physical science is how things move. Maybe working with cars, or working on a spaceship, or a rocket ship. Those are all different types of people that work in science. But not all of the scientists work in a lab. They don't all work in a lab like this scientist. They don't all work in a lab. Some of them work out in the dirt. Some of them work out in the ocean. So there are many types of scientists. So let's look at earth science. Earth science. Earth science is the study of the earth. That's right, you guessed it. And some of those people that like to work on the earth are called geologists. Can you say that? Geologist. That is my friend Lizzie that you heard right there. I think she heard a little noise. But let's continue. Geologist. And geologist, do you hear a word that you've heard before? Geography, geo. Geography, geology, geologist. So geo means the earth. So a geologist will study the earth's rocks, the minerals, and the way the weather happens. How rain happens, how the sun comes out, and so forth. The people who focus on what the weather is going to be like is called a meteorologist. Can you say that with me? A meteorologist. A meteorologist will tell us how sunny it's going to be today, how cold it's going to be, if it's going to be cloudy, if it's going to snow, if it's going to rain. That is a meteorologist. And then we also have oceanographers. And oceanographers, you guessed it, work in the ocean. They study everything that has to do with the earth and the ocean. These scientists study the way that the ocean changes and work to protect the ocean. Then we also have marine biologists. These are really cool. These people, these scientists are called marine biologists. Can you say that with me? Marine biologists. And marine biologists study plants and animals that live in the ocean, like fishes and sharks and dolphins and starfish and jellyfish. And then we have astronomers. Can you say that with me? Astronomers. And have you ever heard the beginning of that word used before? Astro, maybe an astronaut. Yeah, so an astronaut studies space beyond the Earth. So an astronomer is an astronaut. It's a scientist that studies the planets and the stars and asteroids. So those are all the different types of scientists that study the Earth. We have geologists, and they study the Earth's rocks and minerals. We have meteorologists, and they study the weather. We have oceanographers, and they study the Earth's oceans. We have marine biologists, and they study the animals in the ocean and the plants. And then we have astronomers, and they study the Earth, the planets, stars, and asteroids as well. Okay, now that's one section. Now we have another section, and it's called life science, and these people are really cool too. There's different types of scientists. And in life science is the study of anything that is living. Can you name me a couple of things that are living? Yes, a flower, maybe a frog, a leaf, me. Good. So they study plants, animals, humans, and microscopic organisms. That means tiny, tiny germs that maybe are like this big. And then we have physical scientists. And physical science is the study of all things that are physical. Can you show me something physical? This is my physical phone. It's physical. Physical means you can touch it. Physical. And these scientists are experts in areas of physics and chemistry. So they do a lot of experiments inside the lab to see how things work. Okay. There are some very famous scientists out there that have lived before us, and some of them are on this list. Albert Einstein was a very famous scientist, and he developed the theory of relativity, which we will talk about later. Let's continue. Let's see what else. Alexander Graham Bell was the scientist that developed and created the telephone. He thought of it and then asked a question and answered that question by doing experiments, and he invented the telephone. Isn't that great? And then Mr. Tesla, Nikola Tesla, he was also a very famous scientist, and he worked and helped understand electricity. And I don't know about you, but there's some cars out there and they're called Tesla. A Tesla. Have you heard of those cars before? Well, they're named after him. Okay, let's continue. So now what I want us to do is I want us to go to our worksheet that we've been working on. This worksheet right here. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to answer those questions. It says, what is a scientist? So we're going to answer the question. A scientist is a person who studies the world around them. Okay? You can also put something else if you want. What kind of jobs do scientists do? Tell me, what kind of jobs do scientists do? I told you a lot of scientists. And then at the bottom, it has a blank. And it says, a blank is a person who studies the world around us. Yeah, it's a scientist. Earth science is the study of the earth. Life science is the study of living things. Not all scientists work in a lab. Some scientists work, you put it, where do they work? In the ocean, in the dirt, outside. You let me know, okay? So make sure that you finish this as soon as this video is over. And that is it for today. God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow. Actually, I will see you next week. God bless. Totus tuus, Maria.